Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm joined by Marco from Raybox Games, and we're going to be talking about, well, I was going to say Stalingrad Z and its expansions, but now it actually has a name all of its own, Marco. It's the Zombie Tango Oscar.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Zombie Tango Oscar is the series of games. Each game in this series, Weird World War II zombie apocalyptic universe.
Mhm.
Each one is a standalone game, and each one of those games has their own story that continues on from the previous story. So Escape from Stalingrad Z was the first game in the series, and it takes place obviously in Stalingrad,
Mhm.
and in 1942, in the winter of 42. And the Escape from Projekt Riese, which is the next game in the series, is about 6 months later in the Owl Mountains in southern Poland. And any of you historical buffs out there know that the Nazis actually had a Project Riese going on, and we still to this day don't know exactly what they were doing. Well, we took that, and it's underground bases, and it's under like fortresses, and it's got like a whole bunch of dark history associated with it. And we basically took that, and since we didn't know what they were doing, why not zombies? And
Sure.
it fits into things. So basically, in the next game that comes out, which we'll be launching on Kickstarter, you're playing a commando force, an allied Anglo commando force. Basically, come in to get information, and there's some prisoners there you're going to rescue, and a whole bunch of cool stuff. And when you start the game, you can either start from outside the complex as one of the one of the insertion forces coming
Mhm.
along, or when that's Sergeant Kelly, so he's one of the guys. Or you can start in the base as one of the prisoners, or there's a spy in the base too, who was undercover. So there's kind of some cool intrigue, and that's Nicole. She's basically an assassin. French.
Yeah, SOE operative. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if people haven't seen our previous chat, the Zombie Tango Alpha's or Oscar series is essentially narrative game books where the
Right.
book itself is the board and people
Yeah.
play either solo or cooperatively to well, in the initial one in Stalingrad, it is to escape Stalingrad when
Yes.
this weirdness starts kicking off and the dead start rising across the Volga.
Yes, so that's exactly true. So it's relatively unique to the gaming industry the way we handle it. There's a few other games that do it, but it's kind of a whole new way to play miniature games. It's very compact space. It is played on the book, so the scenario book pages are the actual playing surface. So really, it takes up the space of an open book and maybe a little bit extras to put your character sheets out and roll your dice. So super compact, but it's a miniatures game in the end of the day, and it's kind of a very compact, easy to play miniatures game. You want to get that, your miniature fix in. You can do that without like blowing out your whole dining room table or whatever.
Sure.
And yeah, super fast. It's designed as solo play, so it does have a co-op version and a versus version.
Hmm.
These games do. But it's designed for solo, and that came around when during the COVID time, and I wasn't buying any games unless it had solo. It's like if this doesn't solo, I'm not buying it because I'm not going to play it.
Yeah.
And then it basically a lot of people are like that now. I think it's a new. I wouldn't say new. Solo's been around, but it's certainly gotten more attention, and more people
Yeah.
are into it. And
There's been a
and
definite resurgence within the solo gaming over the past
Yes,
couple of years
yes,
because of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So, yeah, and the game, there's a couple of the game you can buy it without miniatures. It's miniature agnostic in a way. You can use whatever miniatures you want.
Yeah.
So there's a travel,
Standees with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's got three different versions. You've got the basic book set or a travel set.
Mhm.
That's like, which is very well priced to get into the markets, around $30. And then you have the box set, which kind of has more stuff and standees and all that sort of thing. And then you've got the deluxe set for those who want to get all the miniatures and all in one shot. But the miniatures are also available separately in four different boxes, so you can kind of pick
Yeah.
and choose what you want. So it's very customer friendly.
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, the miniatures themselves look absolutely fantastic. And we'd started seeing some of the renders and miniatures for Escape from Stalingrad Z. very early on in
Yeah.
the process, just before even
Yeah.
Kickstarter launched, I think. But subsequent to that, Paolo Parente came on board, and I started doing some concept stuff for certainly for Projekt Riese, if
Yes.
not some of the other stuff. What was it like to get him on board, and what's he brought to ZTO?
Well, I loved Paolo's stuff for a few years since I first discovered him in the Dust series, and his stuff is great. And I didn't even know if I would ever work with him, really, but I thought it would be great if one day I would have that opportunity. And Facebook's great for this. Like Facebook, I became friends, on Facebook,
Sure.
but and I really appreciated his stuff. And he reached out to me for something at one point, and then I reached out to him for something at one point. Just some mutual help on working with different artists and different stuff. So when I approached him, it was easy. It was like, he could have said no, but it was easy. I said, "Hey, Paolo, I'm working on this Zombie World War II." I mean, it's right up his alley, anyways, and he loved it.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to work on the concepts for the boss zombies? Like, there's a certain budget that's available. So I figured, for him to do the most critical and the kind of the coolest bunch, and he said yes, and then that was that. And so he brings this extra coolness to the project. I think the boss zombies are that much better because he designed them. Like I collaborated, but he designed them in the end. Mm-hmm. And also, it's great to get Paolo's name on anything because he's great.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it will draw in people who maybe haven't heard of previous
the game itself.
Game iterations, but that they know the name and they know what work he's done in the past. So yeah, it's always a good draw.
Yeah.
So with returning to Riese then, so this massive honeycomb of tunnels below Kaiser Castle, I think it is.
I forgot the name of the castle, but it's one of the
with Polish anyway.
Yeah. It's underneath one of the kind of old castle-y. Yeah.
So when people are playing it, then you said that there's already a spy within it. Will it be almost like a top-down dungeon crawl? Will you be starting from within the castle? Or you said you could start from outside of the castle, infiltrate, and then work your way to the sub-basements and then to the network of honeycomb tunnels that they started carving out in there?
Yes. So it's Escape from Stalingrad Z is there's a matrix for both these games that basically are a web of scenarios that can get played that link up together. So so both of these games are choose your own adventure. So what you do in one scenario will affect what happens later. You have skills and you have abilities that you'll increase along the way. And in Stalingrad Z, you start with one hero, and you'll eventually find a second one that you rescue, and then you can build your team up to 4 heroes. Same thing with Projekt Riese, except that the first 2 scenarios that you play, you'll play both. There's Team A, which are the commandos, and there's Team B that are inside. So you end up playing both of those lines. So you'll play one line, and then technically, like at the same time, there's another thing happening inside, and you're playing a different character inside. So then those 2 characters move along, and they eventually join in a unifying thing, and then they become a team, and then they move on. So that's how you do it. So you got I don't know how much I want to give away. There's so much cool stuff.
Because it's so heavily narrative that it's too easy to start explaining all of the
it's too easy. And we've learned a lot from the first. Like, this is even more narrative than the first one.
Oh, okay.
Like, we've written a lot more stuff. There's a lot more going on. The first one I think is great. It's got this, it's got this, Escape from Stalin. Like, it's so desolate. It's so desperate. It's like, how, it's really like kind of oppressive in a good way when it comes to gaming. Like, oh my God, how am I going to? You're freezing to death. You're running out of food, and it's got that really like challenging aspect to it. It really tells a story, and you can really feel the coldness. And this one is not that it's more lighthearted. You're fighting Nazis, but it doesn't have the same sort of desperation as far as like freezing to death.
Sure.
But it's got this whole other kind of obviously super intense kind of like encounters and conflict. And if I had to kind of compare it, kind of Escape from Stalingrad Z, if you're comparing it to movies, are like more like Alien, where it's more like you're isolated. There's only a few of you, and you're trying to survive. While Escape from Project Riese is more akin to Aliens 2, where your guns blazing. There's Americans, American sergeant. You got British lieutenant. You've got French underground. You've got the spy. One of the characters is a spy who's a scientist there, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a different kind of a way to play, but still the same universe. Still super fun, and yeah.
It's interesting the idea that one is more like the initial survival horror of Alien, where the follow up, the sequel is the Alien style gung ho almost action sci-fi action movie.
I would say it's a little bit like that. Yeah.
Does it then? Are we starting to learn more of the lore and the background of what's happened to kick everything off? Because this follows on half a year to a year after the initial Stalingrad sort of zombie rising. So are people going to be unpicking through various chapters, if you will, of the ZTO games, what happened and how this all came around? Or will that always be masked and nobody's really ever going to be entirely certain as to what happened?
Well, I can tell you that there's I said before when we were chatting, there's kind of a foreshadowing. I've already talked a little bit about this, and there's a release that comes after Project Riese, which is right now called Africa Corps 1941. And it's a prequel to the first two games.
Right.
We will be foreshadowing in the second game, the third game. So you'll start to get information. Certain characters will show up again in the next, so we are starting to unravel a few things. The Nazi Abanabi group, who were, famous for looking for artifacts for Hitler and stuff like that, they're all part of it, and they're set in North Africa, so you can only imagine. And so we start uncovering stuff through this one. There is a museum part of actually under where they've stored all these artifacts, so you kind of discover that, and there's something there, and other things. So we do start unwrapping kind of what's happened, and we start learning some things, but it won't be complete. And then as the ongoing story goes, the next one will reveal a bit more of some things, and then the fourth one is when I plan to the fourth one will be the one where you kind of get the real reveal. I'll say what it is. The fourth one is Return to Stalingrad.
Okay, right.
So the fourth one is when you're a team of this is a few years later. There's a wasteland between Germany and Russia, and there's where there's completely zombie infested, and you're basically inserted to figure out what the hell really happened. And that's when you'll start to, but I don't.
It's interesting. So I like non-linear storytelling. So it goes 42, 43, 41, and then back to
maybe
43 / 44.
I don't know. We'll push it. I'll see what makes the most amount. It depends how much you want to happen in between.
Yeah.
And the truth is that there is an actual. I have another game that's another unique way of playing miniatures that I don't want to describe exactly how it works, but nobody does. It's a completely unique way, and it's also you can get into this game for $30. You're into miniature gaming, and this game is going to be the in between story. It's a tabletop game.
Right.
But and it talks about that in between story of what's happening in the wastelands and stuff. And some of the heroes from our other games, you can bring them in if you want, or there's all new ones. So there's a lot of juicy things going on, a juicy history that we're writing. It's so much that we're writing. I'm always like, this could be a role playing game, but that's there's so much, but it's I gotta draw the line somewhere of what I can design. It's just too much. If anyone wants to design the role-playing game for us, let me know, because I'd love to have them on board.
There'll be plenty of people running about with the ORC soon, I think. So there'll be plenty of takers for that.
Yeah. So there's that. And with this game, actually, it's just a little side thing I want to mention about Escape from Stalingrad Z is that we also have a free copy of the rules up for anyone who wants to play it. And we have a free conversion rules for the tabletop version of the game. So you could literally download the rules and the other information. Yeah. And you can start playing this game right away. It has scenario ideas for the tabletop. It gives you campaign ideas. It gives you randomized, stuff like that. Oh, that's
to
something.
play
Oh,
as well?
that would be for those who have paid. They would be able to get in there
I'll
to get the
the
PNP. But the other stuff is free. So we've got a whole tabletop version of the game available. And I keep thinking about creating it as a book set, as a tabletop version as well. And it would again be accessible, but and then again miniature agnostic. You can use our miniatures if you want, use whatever miniatures you want, but it's basically playing World War II zombies. And
sure.
yeah,
I mean, whenever you're sitting there and you're already talking about potentially the fourth book in the series, how far out are you writing things at the moment? Because presumably once you hand off the production,
yeah,
then you've got downtime, and that's when you've started working on Riza.
yeah. So I can
were you
tell.
always just working a couple of books ahead, or was it like rough
Yeah,
outline for this one and more detail?
yeah, exactly. It's exactly true. So we're already almost finished Riser's scenarios. We're about 33, 34 into what would be 48 to 50 scenarios. So we're two-thirds through or three-quarters through that. We'll be finished within the next month, or maybe six weeks to 2 months. We'll be finished those. We'll still be tweaking it and editing it, but it'll be finished writing, right? The rules are all written, because they're the same as the first rules.
Yeah, they're the same.
We've added in some
done there.
Yeah, the heaviest lifting is done. Although we added in some, new terrain, we added in some new weapons, and we added in two other key things, which I'll discuss in a moment. But so what'll happen is within 2 months, this guy here, you've got Verger. He's one of the heroes in Escape from Projekt Riese. So he's actually obviously German Fallschirmjäger, and he's one of the characters you can play. And now I even lost what I was talking about. Oh, right. Okay. So yeah, we'll be finished in a couple months.
Sure.
So we've already started doing miniatures for Africa Corps. They've already started that.
Okay.
And they're cool. I gotta show them after. They're cool. They're starting to look really good. Like we've learned a lot of miniatures. Like I guess the first game I kind of was more tame because I want it to be achievable. And then as I could see what we could push the technology, like how much more dynamic we can make it. Maybe they cost me a bit more, but it's like, okay, now I know it works, so we can afford to make it cost a bit more. So yeah, it's going great. So they're getting more interesting. So we've already started on the third game, the miniatures. And we're going to start, and we have the outline. We know basically what's going to happen in broad strokes. That's already done. And we'll start writing it in 2 months.
Okay.
And it won't be releasing until 2024. So like way ahead of schedule, right? Yeah. And as I mentioned, I showed you a little bit, but for this year, for Christmas, we're working on a Viking version. So it's a Paths Unknown version. So the game, all these games use the Paths Unknown system, which is the book system and the choose your own adventure style. So we've got a Viking one coming out for Christmas, or launching at Christmas time ish. So that one is already, we've been going on that for a while. So it's basically this one comes out, then the Viking one comes out this year, then early next year comes Africa Corps, and we're working. But by the time we're launching the Viking one for Christmas, we're already working on the fourth one in this. Yeah, we're always ahead, and it's fun to be ahead. Like it's fun to be creative and not feel like you're. Yeah, we're far enough ahead that we can play with it and change our minds a little bit. Yeah, it's really great. And I'm working with Tom Frank. I wanted to mention his name. Tom and I worked together about 25 years ago. So he worked for my company, which at the time was Global Games, 30 years ago. And so whenever this came around and the game did well, I called up Tom. We'd already been communicating, but I said, "Hey, man, you want to come back on board?" And I hired him. So like 25 years later, he's working again. So it's really awesome. That allows our output. Like we can create a lot more. And then on the side, freelancing, Wes Johnson he's working a lot on the Viking one. Wes Johnson also worked for me 30 years ago, and 25 years ago. And so he came back on board on a freelance basis right now, and which allows us to do a lot more, and be more creative and like just really push forward. So it's become a full-time job for at least two of us. And yeah.
Happy days.
Happy days.
You say you're working on the Viking one then, so I can't let you go without picking your brains a little bit on this.
Sure.
Is it going to be set in Scandinavia, or a lot of people, whenever they think of the Viking Age, a lot
I
of the
can
time
give
they
you a
default to
synopsis of it.
British Isles type of thing, but
Yeah.
obviously the Viking period is a fairly expansive period, and geographically as well. They covered a lot
Yes.
of ground.
Yeah.
In that time.
Well, dude, like, I don't even want to talk about the second Viking one. It's so cool. The second Viking one, I know I'm giving away so much. The second one, not this one, the one I'm writing after it, that's based in North America.
Oh, excellent. Vinland Saga time.
It's gonna have North American
Skraelings.
It'll have have the Viking aspect, and it'll have the North American Indian aspect, right? Or natives aspect.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really cool miniatures. This one is basically, it goes back, so it's around the year 1000 or so.
Okay.
And there was a Jarl who was a super evil dude in the 900s, and he also was filled with, like, basically glory, and it really went to his head. So he was building on this island. He was building this tomb where he would supposed to live forever, and it was a gate to hell, basically. It was a gate. It was a gate to Niflheim, which is between Earth and Hell, right? It was a gate. So what happened was he was building it, and he had all these trusted advisors and stuff. And the rest of the Viking clan were very leery, and they hated him because he was super evil. So they sealed him into the tomb. That was on this island, that was in and around where the Irish monks ended up being. So what happens is they seal it. No one. 100 years passed. No one talks about this island. No one's supposed to go to the island, but the monks, in their movement around, they're so close, they end up settling the island and putting a monastery on top of the tomb. And
they could find a free bit of land for hermitage. Away they go. Yeah,
we're playing with it a bit. I'm not sure, but historically, we're trying. There's mythologically, we're using real Viking mythology and stuff.
Sure.
Then what happens is the Vikings are I'm using it as a general term, but particularly, they realize what's happening, and it's a bit late. So they're like, let's just send some boats out and just take out the whole thing. Nuke it from space if it was. If it was alien. Sure. Just take it right out. Whatever, because they're not supposed to be there. This is, who knows what's going to happen. So they send out the six ships, and they never get heard of. It's like nothing happens. No one. What happened to the ships? So. This is all before the game starts, right? So it's like, what happens to these ships? And they're just, they're getting no notification. So they're like, okay, well, we got to send ships to find out what happened to the ships. And there's like, I don't know if sending a whole bunch of more ships is the answer. So they put together a covert force of super duper Vikings, right? And who are supposed to go in there and basically you're scouting it out, do what you can, come back and report. But the ship that's taken them, of course, gets smashed, and your hero starts on the beach, basically, and the story unfolds. And the cool thing is that you're going to have Christians and Vikings ending up coming together, just kind of like you had Germans and Soviets coming together. So they have to come together to obviously
deal with the greater threat.
Threat. And and there's a Skald. There's different. It's even one of the characters is an undead character who maybe he's a little bit evil, maybe he's not. It's a D&D-ish thing, right? We all play that. I don't know how many have played chaotic. Maybe not chaotic evil. It would be pretty awful, but lawful evil characters.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's just the beginning, and then so you wake up, you're on the beach or whatever, and it's just the story unfolds. You're there, so there. That's I don't know if I gave you too much.
Tough monks. If anybody wants to find out what's coming for the Paths Unknown and Projekt Riese itself, where's the best place that they should be checking out? Then the Raybox website or Facebook?
No, I post pretty regularly to the Facebook group. So the first place you can go is the Facebook group, which is called Zombie Tango Oscar, which means Zombie Theater of Operations, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you hate Facebook, you don't go on Facebook. We are on Instagram as well under Raybox. And if you hate that too, we do have a Discord channel called Raybox where you can go. And if you want to notifications of that, then there's the Kickstarter, or you can just sign up for a newsletter. Is also that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the newsletter, we only put it out once or twice a month. And anyone who wants to join, you can unsubscribe anytime, whatever like that. So
it occasionally will throw things out there like the little free zombie shooting game. which is
I did.
it's good for courtesy of the newsletter.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually have like 4 or 5 more I want to do, but just finding time of like different, like just that really easy 1-page kill zombies, all with the World War II motif and stuff like that. Yeah.
There you go, folks. Worth checking out. Paths Unknown. Projekt Riese will not be far away. We'll put the links below to the Kickstarter launch page. If you've any questions for Marco, please drop them below. It's definitely worth checking out. I really like the looks of the miniatures as well, especially the ones that Paolo's been working on. They're his unique blend of weird and World War II.
For sure.
But yeah, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us today, Marco.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.